Alrighty, for decades, consumers have searched Google, clicked on websites, and compared products, made decisions. But what happens when AI starts doing the searching and eventually the choosing for them? If your credit union isn't visible to AI, will you even exist with tomorrow's member? Joining me today is Terry Seitz. Terry, did I pronounce your last name correctly? I didn't ask you that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Alrighty. Um, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our guests and let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do. I noticed on LinkedIn you've got like three different organizations that you're involved with. So with that, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Yes. Thanks, Greg, and thanks for the forthcoming conversation. Who am I? I am Terry Seitz and a partner and the chief operating officer at an ad agency called the Nuance Collective. We're a startup. We're about a year old, and I think as a foreshadow to our conversation, we are heavily steeped and experts in the AI space as much as anyone can be, given the relentless march of AI and how much it's a sort of affecting our world, both in the advertising and marketing discipline, but overall. Prior to joining the Nuance Collective, I spent over a dozen years at Visa, where I ran U.S. consumer marketing. So spearheaded a bunch of marketing initiatives around the Olympics and the NFL, the World Cup, which just got finished. So my remit was driving brand equity amongst cardholders with Visa, and then also doing sort of more bottom funnel usage of cardholder amongst cardholders with things like security, digital wallets, products and features, e-commerce, and then finally cross-border. So my career is over 20 years old. I started in the agency business. I went to Visa, and then now I'm back. So it's been a wonderful arc about the last 2 decades that sort of mirrors how the function of marketing and advertising has changed accordingly.
Okay. Well, a lot of people talk about AI.
Hmm.
AI's coming, kind of like it's some future technology, but AI is not coming. It's here. What are
Yeah.
people missing?
What are people missing? I think what people are missing is how to properly use it. And what I mean by use it is how does AI contribute to enterprise value creation? Um, and I think it's all situational in terms of the organization, in terms of the function that you work in within an organization. But I think I don't want to say we're early days, but we are just beginning to learn the capabilities of AI and the people that use AI to drive enterprise value. In marketing, it's very easy these days to say, and this I think applies to not only marketing but cross-functionally. Automate the things that can be automated, right? AI is pretty good at that, right? AI has a speed by which that they can do it. So it often defaults to a cost savings exercise, which yes is part of enterprise value in terms of profit and margin, but we haven't, I think, unlocked its full potential in terms of driving future revenue, future profit, like pricing power, helping to, uh, de-risk or optimize risk in the future. What we use and are increasingly using AI to do in my practice at the agency and for our clients is yes, automate the things that can be automated, um, um, but use AI for synthetic research, which is a hotly debated topic, which is in years and across every organization, target and segmentation research, total addressable market, service addressable market. These types of things were often uh, done through third parties, take 6 months, take $500,000 and, be quite laborious and expensive. Well, AI and the models associated with it can do synthetic research in in a handful of hours or handful of days at marginal cost. Now, people will somewhat scoff and say synthetic research isn't real research. Well, yes, we're not talking to real people. That being said, they're incredibly good proxies that happen to remove sort of bias that is inherent in people filling out surveys or being in focus groups, et cetera. So there's this wonderful like scale, speed, and removal of bias that something like a synthetic um, research lever that AI can pull for us is critically important. Obviously the second thing that AI affords all of us from a speed perspective is the ability to create content, almost an ocean of content, and we see it. And there's this term in the space called, and the worry about what they call slop. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, Greg.
Yes. Well, I had not heard that term before I got the information from you. This is fascinating because I don't think nobody in the industry is talking about it. You used that phrase and I loved it, AI slop. What exactly is AI slop?
Yeah, so slop is a pejorative term to talk about poor quality content. And what AI, because it's still in its relative infancy, but learning and applying at breakneck speed, is AI produces a lot of low quality content or messaging or advertising or copy for your website or Google search words. Um, and the industry sort of has pushed back and said, AI is wrong. AI is detrimental to your business because of the amount of low quality content that it is creating, hence the word slop. Um, so the interesting point to that is the answer is yes. It is producing a great deal of slop. Is it getting better at producing more insightful, relevant, resonant messaging and content for people? Absolutely. Does it learn at the does it learn at the speed of light? Absolutely. And so this notion of sort of slop being the defining characteristic of of marketing content is a little bit sort of is a little bit unfair or not likely to be true in the future. The interesting thing is it's a knee-jerk reaction of my industry to say only humans can produce marketing that drives bottom line business, that drives enterprise value. And I'm not sure that that is exactly true because we haven't had the best track record over the last 100 years of developing, amazing content, in an everyday, for every brand. And I don't think credit unions are any different in that sense.
Now, are we entering a world where everyone can create unlimited content, but almost nobody creates memorable content?
I That is a wonderful provocation. And the answer is yes, anyone can create content and streams and oceans of it. And by the way, what is fascinating is that if we think about how we're developing AI content today, in large, it's about written prompts, right? You go to Claude, you go to Chat, you go to Gemini, and you type out your prompts, which elicit a recommendation or elicit an answer. Well, voice AI, by the way, is here, but voice AI is you, me, everyone else prompting through voice, which is infinitely faster than your ability to type. And so your ability to create ever more content is going to become that much truer in the future. And so it's like this unstoppable appetite and access and feasibility to create content. But to your point, that leads to this worry about more sort of slop. And so I think it's critical, and this is where we as humans will always continue to play an important role, is not only in sort of critical thinking, but in sort of the curation of that content such that it is human, so that it is sort of human first and more memorable. Um, I don't think that we've figured that out quite yet. We are getting better at that. And I liken it to, in some respects, our roles, whoever is developing the AI content, we have to think of ourselves more sort of a conductor of an orchestra, right? Where you have different levers of AI and different human levers of developing content that aren't AI. And your job is to manifest a song where everyone is singing from or playing from that same sort of song sheet versus individual instruments. And so the function of people developing AI, particularly in the marketing world, is less about being an individual player, an individual oboe, bass, violin, clarinet, etc., tuba, and now more of like, well, now we got to be conductors of a system of players to get to your very good point, Greg, that develop memorable content.
So a lot of people can create content out there. Is AI making average marketers more productive or just more average?
Great, another great provocation. I want to say the answer is yes, or the answer is both. Yes, we can produce ever more content at speed. And the theory being one of the wonderful things that enables us to do is to test and learn and test and learn and test and learn what is the most resonant pieces of content, right? Um, and because we can do it at speed, you can learn more quickly and then pivot your marketing investment and your capital sort of accordingly. I think the challenge is because of that ability of our ability, newfound ability to develop ever more streams and oceans of content, there is a regression to the mean where lots of the content is not differentiated. And so it won't, quote unquote, sort of land with people. Bringing it back to sort of credit unions, one of the things that we've been doing at the Nuance Collective is running um, diagnostic AI-based audits, like what the models are telling us about specific credit union brands, how differentiated they are or not. And what we found, having done 70 of these, like across the country, is that um, many of them, of us, fall into what we call sort of the sea of sameness, where the risk appetite to be a differentiated brand, which to your point drives memorability, which should drive preference, which should drive acquisition, which should drive LTV and repeat, usage, is being tempered because everyone is talking about the same things. That will only and that's separate and distinct from AI. Now, when you layer on um, the disposition to do a lot more AI and this notion of a lot more content, but potentially in the interim, a regression to the mean, you're even going to become less differentiated as a credit union because you're relying on these things that don't separate you. Um, so it's a worrisome sort of 1-2 punch of lots of credit unions aren't differentiated. And then when you add on AI, they're going to fall to this mean of uh, speaking coming across as exactly the same thing, which I know you feel incredibly passionate about.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So you've looked at over 70 different credit unions. You've seen this sea of sameness.
Yeah,
If everyone can generate the same content, in 30 seconds, what becomes the competitive advantage?
I think the competitive, great question. I think the competitive advantage is, I think internally, um, employing folks that are system-wide thinkers who can curate better content. And what I mean by better is differentiated content that speaks to you as a credit union and um, and why you exist and what makes you unmistakably different. Now, Greg, before we got we got on the Zoom and started to talk, I saw that you quoted or have quoted Simon Sinek.
Yeah, I am okay. I am forever a student. So even if and I've done a number of things with my own, but I am constantly learning. I think a leader needs, I've heard the saying, leaders are readers, and so I've probably got 10 books I've recently ordered in the last few months, and I'm in the middle of probably three of them.
Where do you have the time?
I I don't. Sometimes it's literally I'm at night and just literally the other day, not to completely get off the topic, but I just opened up a brand new Amazon Prime package just a couple days ago. It was a book from credit union CEO Doug Wadsworth, and my wife was like, you got another book?" Like aren't you in the middle of probably at least a few of them? But it's something that I always enjoy. Sometimes, just to kind of get away, I can go through things, and if you find stuff that you're interested in, like Doug, who's a credit union CEO, wrote a book for credit union CEOs, and just recently wrote a book, for credit union board members. But when you find things that you really enjoy, and I'm sure just like you with, marketing, advertising, AI, you probably find it, intriguing to, want to learn more on your topic. I started out about how, people find us with Google, and now that's being changed with
Yeah,
Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini. How should credit unions rethink digital marketing?
it's it's a it's a great question, and I want to quickly build back to my Simon comment for
Oh,
a
yeah,
second.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, no, but I'll
Well,
build it. I'll
earlier
build it.
I said the conversation is going to
No,
kind of go back and forth, and so let's pause that on the digital marketing thing, go back to
no.
Simon.
It all connects. That's the wonderful thing. So you having quoted Simon, like just it was amazing, and I was like, oh, this is great. So Simon, um, who has the Optimism Company, right? For those folks who don't know, right? He is a famous TED talker, and he talks about the quote unquote why. Why do you exist as a company and as an organization? And until you can answer that question, it's really hard for you to build a sustainable, profitable business because you're not able to answer the problem and or opportunity that you're solving for your customers and or consumers. Um,
And that's what's going to make you unique.
yes.
Like every bank can say this, every credit union can say that, but what makes you unique? And that's, I think, the key part that's going to, go past the digital age.
Well, that's exactly right. And so again, I go back to the 70 some odd um, diagnostic audits that I've done for credit unions, and there is that lack of what makes someone unique. Everyone's talking about rates. Everyone's talking about um, um, if I'm honest, sort of this amorphous idea of community and membership and terms and right and everyone's talking about the same thing, but no one's really talking about why they exist. Going back to Simon, to bridge it to your question about how how do credit unions rethink, reframe, move forward in this sort of like new AI powered age, the reality is that AI is fundamentally changing how people search for financial partners. To say it's like entirely replacing Google or Bing, no, it's not, but it is encroaching on their territory and a supplement. And what's interesting is that AI scrapes together every conceivable piece of information about you as a company and aggregates it and then plays it back. Um, and so going back to Simon and going back, Greg, to your wonderful point, if you don't position yourself answering the question why you exist, you will just be yet another credit union when people search, or another financial institution opportunity as everyone else in your community and surrounding geo. So you got to answer the why. Now, um, what is interesting, and I urge folks and listeners to do this if they haven't done it already, go into Gemini, go into chat, and type in um, how you know, how you are perceived within the models and in the machines. And I think you will be surprised about what gets played back to you. Some of it's going to be right, some of it's going to be wrong, but it goes back to this notion of sort of curation. You have to, in every piece of digital content and or pixel that you are part of, it's got to be telling a pretty singular story about what makes you different, and answering sort of that question why. It is fascinating to see people increasingly use AI for quote unquote search. Um, and within that, the definite layers of product and loan information and cross and upsell opportunities. But what's fascinating, somewhat scary, is that um, in the future, it's happening now, but will happen quite more extensively in the future. There's going to be models and machines that talk to themselves that basically cut us out of the middle. The machines are going to make recommendations and buy on our behalf based on our preferences. Um, but we are largely going to be cut out of the middle. And so it's even more important that as a brand, as a credit union, we get our story right and what makes us different. Because this is, as you rightly pointed out at the beginning, um, the wave of the future. It's not only the wave of the future, it's the wave of the now, because we are here. Um and it's not going away.
So with, authority, reputation, reviews, trusted data, expertise, digital footprint, what determines who gets recommended?
Well, the models get determined who gets recommended because they are, whereas Google, if you think about it, Google, generally speaking, didn't make recommendations. It gave you information. It organized and prioritized information, but it didn't say we
It
want to
didn't,
be.
well, it didn't give a recommendation per se, but as a business, you could do SEO to get
Yes.
your information higher up on the ladder.
Correct. Yes. Yes, you could. And a variety of levers to do that, paid and unpaid, things like backlinks and optimization. Yes, all of those things are true. But
But
when
does
you
that go out the window with AI?
well, it does because AI wants to give you an answer. They don't want to give you options. So when you type in, um, what's the best credit union within 50 miles of Toledo, the machine wants to give you an answer. It will give you options at the end, but they will say it's X or Y or Z. So it's paramount that the that trust, being single-minded about who you are, recommendations, to your point, from existing members, and the organizations that you work with, the community, leads into who they ultimately recommend. And we as humans increasingly default to things that give us recommendations because we are all about convenience and speed in our lives. We don't want to overthink things, right? So it's a transformational um, paradigm as we move forward. Greg, you're on mute.
Oops. So earlier you were talking about AI doing different things. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of mind blowing when you start thinking about, my AI found me a better HELOC, or my AI refinanced my car, or my AI switched my checking account. Um, is it going to be a point where consumers don't even need to go to a member doesn't even need to go to the website anymore?
Um, that is a very real possibility in the not too distant future. I feel like those things are first going to take shape and are taking shape with lower ticket, higher frequency, purchase items, right? If we think about the long time, and what I would say sort of the anemic rate of change in financial services with respect to getting and then changing a primary checking or savings account, right? The amount of years attached to an auto loan, the fact that, mortgages only happen, two or three times, right, in the course of someone's life. Like those things are going to be slower. Um, but there will be strong recommendations that the models make to us. And if we let them, yes, they could conceivably make those purchases um, on our behalf. They will certainly be an incredible tool in terms of the upselling of existing products within a given credit union portfolio. But yeah, absolutely. In the near future, they could be acting or interacting, transacting on our behalf.
Alrighty. Well, here's one that I'm going to kind of try to reverse roles a little bit. Now,
Yeah.
if you became a CEO of $100 million credit union tomorrow, you had AI, you had a limited budget, you had 1 year. What's the first five things you would do?
Um, well, one thing you can do again in 60 seconds is go to the major LLMs like Claude, like Chat, like Gemini, and type in how your brand is being played back, and that will give you an indication uh, of what what you're being perceived as. So that's like a 3 minute thing. I think the second thing to do is um, approach it and embrace it, but with caution. And look to the quick wins that can help automate some of the more labor intensive parts of the business. Again, I live and breathe in marketing, right? And so there operational things that one can do in terms of like media planning and buying. Absolutely, in terms of developing content that one can test and then measure and then optimize and redeploy out in the marketplace. These are things that should absolutely be um, looked at. Are there things in legal and in IT that can also benefit um, from the automation that AI provides at speed? Like absolutely. I'm not in full disclosure. I'm more adept at talking about AI within the context of marketing and advertising than
Okay,
I do cross-functionally.
sure.
Cross-functionally, but um, I I think one of the things that as a CEO, you you would also want to get across as part of I think some of the heightened sensitivities that people have, right? If you all the stuff we've been reading, like it's taking our jobs and it's we're gonna be no one under the age of well, either no one over the age of 40 is going to have a job and no one under the age of 30 will ever get a new job, cue college graduates worried about, right? I think that stuff is overblown and overblown to the extent that we just don't know. And so your ability as a leader to sort of temper expectations, um, but sort of quell the hysteria and the hyperbole around it, I think would go a long way to stop people from looking around their shoulders and corners and go, am I going to exist in this organization within 12 months? So I think having a roadmap about how to test and iterate how AI can contribute to the organization um, versus not, I think would be a wonderful tonic culturally for people. I know it is for us as well. Like I have a bunch of you know um, what we call creative, so art and art directors and designers and copywriters who are going, am I did I, do I have a discipline moving forward? Um, so
Well, we're just about out of time coming up on everything.
yeah,
I thought we'd just kind of finish up kind of on a light note. Real quick, just finishing the sentence, with one word. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I share with you a handful of sentences? You
okay,
ready?
yeah.
Okay. AI will replace.
AI will replace the Henry Ford linear ways of working
Ooh, I
most
like
notably in
that.
marketing and advertising. Oh God, that
That's
was not one word, Greg. I'm so
no, it
sorry.
wasn't one word, but I like it. That really kind of put it in context. Credit unions overestimate.
Credit unions overestimate um, how much they embody community.
Okay.
I think they talk about it a lot, but there's a lot of proof that still needs to be applied.
Marketing should become less.
Marketing should become less precious and deterministic. So, Greg, when I talk to you as a CEO, or your function talks to you, we've overcorrected on guaranteeing um, financial outcomes versus being more probabilistic in what we should do. You're getting no one word answers, Greg. I'm so sorry.
Okay. The biggest AI myth is
The biggest AI myth is biggest AI myth that it is not that it is all 100% net positive for humanity.
okay. And the last one, every credit union leader should learn.
Every credit. Sorry, can you restate that?
Every credit union leader should learn
Um, every
AI.
credit
I
number.
don't know. What, what's your answer?
um, that you are more powerful and the organization is more powerful than it's often um, be liked because we are a non or a not for profit. The impact you can make in the community is far greater than you guys are giving yourselves credit for.
Okay, Terry. Real quick, fun question. What's one prediction you have that sounds absolutely crazy today, but you'll probably be right about 5 years from now?
Um, the one prediction that is absolutely crazy today. Um, the Mets winning the World Series? No, that's a terrible. That's actually not going to come true. Says New Yorker. The one prediction that AI will replace um human human employment capital to the degree that everybody thinks it is, given the hysteria around it.
Okay, and in closing, Terry, if you could leave credit union leaders with just one piece of advice as AI reshapes our industry, what would that advice be?
Perspective. You got your one word answer. No, I joke about that, but um, perspective is the great equalizer around the peril and promise of AI, e.g., the speed and the depth and oceanic content that it can create, but it still requires critical thinking, empathy, human understanding, and curation. And those are all things that one gets from perspective. And I think the wonderful thing about perspective is it gives you, it removes bias, it compounds over time for you to make better decisions and different decisions, right? Like, Greg, getting your perspective on things, getting other folks' perspective on things, having, you know, trying to get some self perspective, I think leads to better leadership and better decisions over the long term.
All righty. Well, Terry, um, if anybody listening would like to find more information about you or your organization, how can they find you?
Great question. I am on LinkedIn, and my email is Terry Terry at the Nuance Collective.net.
All righty. Terry, thank you for sharing your insights around helping us look beyond technology itself, is focus truly on what matters: leadership, strategy, innovation. Those are the things that are going to help shape the future of credit unions. Now, for those of you listening, if you've liked our episode, please like and share this information. Thank you for joining us on Credit Unions Forum, where we bring together voices, ideas, and innovations shaping the future of our industry. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, keep challenging what's possible, and keep making a difference in the lives of your members and communities. Thank you.